4,000 years ago, nestled between two vanished rivers in the lower plains, stood the ancient city of Namruk. Namruk's walls were not built for beauty, but to protect its people from harsh winds, wild beasts, and uprisings. The people of Namruk labored quietly under the scorching sun, their days shaped by grain, obedience, and quiet fear. Each morning, they bowed eastward toward the Temple of Breath, trusting the priests to plead with the gods for another day of life. King Ashur Khan ruled the ancient city of Namruk with a strong and unwavering hand, believing his power was divinely granted. He wasn't cruel for cruelty's sake, nor gentle out of kindness. He ruled with calculated resolve, knowing mercy could undermine his throne. The king's trust lay solely in High Priest Enuma, who convinced him that lasting peace demanded sacrifice and blood. Every full moon, a prisoner was taken from the city gates, bound tightly and offered in fire, an offering meant to silence the heavens. On the 43rd day of the dry season, something unusual happened. The wind simply stopped. No dust rose, no birds called. Even the oxen stayed still, as if caught in a strange silence. The elders said the air felt heavy, like a judgment hanging over everything around them. In the temple courtyard, priests in white linen robes gathered, whispering about the gods changing their breath. They knew deep down that something new was coming from the sky, something that would change everything. Late at night, as the city settled into quiet, a faint red shimmer appeared far on the horizon, soft and elusive like an ember drifting through the mist. It wasn't the dawn breaking, but the light pulsed gently, almost as if it had a life of its own. Suddenly, the watchtower guards rang the warning bell, sending an urgent call through the sleeping streets. In response, dozens of people rushed out, their footsteps echoing as they flooded into the dimly lit streets below. Surprisingly, no fire burned on the ground, yet the clouds above blazed as if the sky itself had caught aflame. High Priest Enuma dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by a sudden haunting memory. He recalled an ancient verse, etched long ago onto a broken tablet hidden beneath the temple's foundation. The verse warned, "When the sky bleeds, men shall pay for forgotten sins." Most thought it just an old fable, but as Enuma muttered these words, his face drained of color, struck by the grim truth. He realized the prophecy spoke of 7 nights. 7 red nights of punishment looming ahead. In the heart of Namruk, the citizens gathered anxiously in the central square. Mothers held their children close, while merchants quietly closed their stalls, leaving coins untouched. On the balcony above, the king appeared, his reed crown dull under an eerie red glow. He raised his hand, announcing that the priests would conduct a cleansing ritual at dawn. Until then, he declared, no lamp or torch was to be lit, casting the city into a heavy silence. A quiet dread settled over Namruk as the night swallowed its fears. As night fell, a deep red light began to spread, turning the sky into a vast crimson veil. The usual sounds of the night changed. Dogs howled frantically, breaking free from their restraints. Birds flapped desperately against windows and walls, as if trying to escape an unseen force. People hid inside their homes, whispering forgotten prayers to calm their growing fear. The air was thick and heavy, like breathing through smoke, marking the start of the terrifying 7 nights. At the first light of dawn, the priest prepared a powerful offering with 12 goats and 7 doves. A condemned man was brought forward, his fate sealed in silence as the ritual moved forward. His body was burned on a towering pyre set before the temple, flames flickering fiercely into the sky. The smoke climbed strangely high, reaching into the red dawn sky, then vanished without a trace. Enuma saw this as a sacred sign, proof the gods accepted their offering, but inside his hands trembled. What none knew was that the smoke carried no scent, a silent and unsettling mystery. The second night arrived sooner than anyone expected, casting an unsettling red glow over everything. The red hue deepened, turning even shadows into crimson silhouettes against the dark sky. The usual moon disappeared, replaced by a dull, steady glow that barely lit the darkened world. At dawn, farmers woke to a disturbing sight. Their wells were bleeding, leaking a thick, rusty red liquid instead of water. People feared the sky's tears had seeped into the earth, poisoning their precious water. The king ordered every well to be sealed, but still, an unbearable thirst started to haunt the city. By the 3rd day, flocks of black birds started to fall from the sky, blanketing the streets like a strange, dark rain. Their bodies lay everywhere, and no one dared to touch them, overwhelmed by an eerie silence. Priests gathered the fallen birds and set them ablaze, but the smell that filled the air wasn't of decay. It was sharp, like iron. Enuma said the heavens were bleeding through these creatures, each fallen bird a drop of divine punishment. Rumors started swirling that the priests had angered the gods with false sacrifices, sparking unrest. The mob grew louder, throwing stones and demanding justice, calling for Enuma's head. King Ashur Khan arrived with his guards and swiftly silenced the chaos by punishing the first man who spoke out. Even so, fear had taken hold. People started hiding idols in their homes, turning to forgotten gods instead of the temple's deity. By the fourth night, the sky glowed so brightly it outshone any fire you've seen before. You could feel it in the air, like it was humming with some unseen energy. Kids started saying they heard whispers of their names carried on the wind. Even the cattle stopped eating, unsettled by whatever was happening. And strangely, all the dogs in the city seemed to have vanished without a trace. Those brave enough to climb the city walls said the horizon was alive, burning not with fire but with colors that moved like a living thing. Ashur Khan vanished from sight, retreating deep within his palace walls, leaving the people restless and uncertain. In desperation, he demanded answers from Enuma, his trusted priest, but silence and mystery were all he received. Frustrated and fearful, the king's fury was sudden and fierce, striking out as he accused fate and bloodshed for their curse. Enuma's chilling reply hung in the air. The only cure demanded was even more blood. That night, the prison cells were emptied. Their prisoners vanished without a trace, fueling a dark and fearful legend. After months without a drop, rain finally returned. But this time it was red, staining everything in its path. People screamed as the crimson droplets fell, burning their skin with a slow, bitter sting. Inside the temples, priests covered their altars with ash, praying desperately for the storm to end. But no one noticed the idols themselves, their eyes beginning to crack under the unseen pressure. In the bustling palace kitchens, a young slave named Iltar worked quietly, unnoticed by most. Days before the chaos began, Iltar saw something strange, an eerie red glow on the horizon. He believed it wasn't the gods, but the earth itself crying out for attention and mercy. For speaking out, Iltar was beaten and left alone in the cold, empty courtyard. Yet his words spread quietly among the workers. The sky bleeds because we have forgotten mercy. By the sixth night, the air was thick with despair as famine took hold. The once secure granaries were finally opened, only to reveal grain blackened and brittle with age. No rats remained. They had all either fled or perished in silence. People chewed on scraps of leather and drank salty brine, struggling to survive another night. Beneath a persistent red glow that seemed endless, tears were quietly shed. Even the priests, once full of hope, whispered doubts as the seventh day's relief failed to come. Those who stayed awake too long began hearing voices, whispers carried by the night air. The sky didn't speak in words, but in memories, showing faces of those they had wronged. Some people clawed at their eyes, convinced they saw blood dripping down from the heavens onto their souls. Enuma, the high priest, summed it all up in a single line on his scroll. Punishment is remembrance. The seventh night arrived, calm and still, with not a breath of wind to stir the air. The red glow around the city dimmed into a deep, ominous hue, casting long shadows everywhere. In the temple, silence reigned, no bells ringing, no prayers echoing through the halls. This time, the final offering was unlike any before. Not an animal, not a servant, but the king himself. King Ashur Khan approached the altar quietly, knelt before the flickering flame, and spoke only these words: "If I am the sin, let me burn." Without hesitation, the priests followed their command, honoring the king's final act of sacrifice. As dawn broke, the red sky slowly faded into soft gray, then a calm blue. One by one, people stepped outside, blinking in disbelief at the changed world around them. The air felt cool again, fresh and crisp like a new beginning that never quite came. The wells, once tainted, now ran clean, but the land itself was broken beyond repair. No crops would ever grow in Namuruk's soil again. The fields lay barren and lifeless. The animals were gone, vanished from the quiet landscape without a trace. Where once the city streets buzzed with trade and life, now only dust and silence remained. In an ancient weathered tablet, discovered long after lost, a single passage was etched with trembling hands. It reads, "The sky bled not for sin, but for truth. For man had forgotten his own cruelty, and the heavens merely reflected it." The mysterious Enuma vanished without a trace. Only his robes remained, stained the deep color of dried blood. As the red sky disappeared, an eerie silence took over Namuruk like a heavy shroud. No children's laughter filled the air. No rattling carts disturbed the stillness. Only the whisper of the wind moving through empty homes remained. Those who survived the 7 nights kept to themselves, speaking to no one. They wandered the silent streets, uncertain if they were truly still alive. It felt as if the city itself held its breath, fearful the heavens might remember them again. At the foot of the ancient temple, the ground had turned to gray dust, soft like the remnants of burnt bone. Nothing could grow there. Seeds would simply fail, leaving the earth barren and still. The priests called this place the Ash Garden, a sacred boundary between life and death. They built a stone wall around it and forbade anyone from crossing into this silent, gray garden. But at night, mysterious footprints appeared in the dust, small, barefoot, and impossible to explain. High Priest Enuma suddenly disappeared after the king's mysterious sacrifice, leaving everyone in shock. Some believed the gods had taken him away, while others thought he fled into the endless desert, escaping judgment. In his absence, a young novice named Nahir stepped up, though his hollow eyes spoke of uncertainty and fear. Nahir declared the temple would stay closed until the gods revealed their will once more. But the gods never answered. Silence settled over the temple and hope began to fade. By the 20th day after the bleeding sky, the winds came back, dry, bitter, and unforgiving. Slowly, the desert began to reclaim the city, as sand crept over empty streets and filled every crack. Statues and ruins wore down faster than one would expect, as if time itself was hungry. Travelers whispered stories of the city of Namaruk being swallowed whole by the relentless sands. At night, those who stayed began to hear strange sounds beneath their homes. Not footsteps, not the wind, but soft murmurs like distant prayers. One widow even claimed she heard her late husband's voice calling out from beneath the floorboards. Desperate, she tore the stones from the floor, searching for answers, but all she found was dry, empty earth. Still, her neighbors whispered about strange red lights flickering from the cracks in the night. The river Suma, once the lifeblood of Namaruk, suddenly dried up in just one day. Fish carcasses lay scattered across the cracked earth, their scales blackened like coal. The priests believed the river took its own life, fleeing the sins of mankind. They renamed it Tamar, the vein of the gods, and warned that no one should walk its haunted banks again. Iltar, the kitchen slave who once spoke of mercy, was found wandering the shadowy lower streets. His skin was pale and his eyes looked distant, as if haunted by something unseen. In his hands, he carried a small bowl filled with ashes, the last memory of a fallen king. He whispered, "He burned so we may remember, but we remember nothing." When the guards tried to take him, his body crumbled to dust at their touch, vanishing into the night. One quiet night, Nahir stumbled upon a hidden chamber tucked beneath the temple altar. Inside, he found 6 remarkably preserved clay tablets lined up and a 7th broken in 2. The carvings told a powerful story, a covenant made long ago by the gods themselves. They had promised never to flood or burn humanity again, a solemn vow of protection. But there was a chilling exception, barely legible from centuries past. Except when man learns to rule without mercy. In the ancient palace ruins, survivors discovered strange red handprints lining the corridor walls. These handprints didn't match any living person, and they seemed to glow faintly in the dark, like embers that refused to die out. Centuries later, scholars called them mere mineral stains, but those who witnessed them spoke of a different reality. They swore the marks pulsed softly, almost as if they were still alive, holding on to some forgotten secret. On the 30th night after the bleeding sky, the remaining priests gathered for a ceremony unlike any other. A feast of silence. They didn't speak a single word, nor did they eat a bite, choosing instead to sit in stillness until the first light of dawn. As the sun rose, half of them were mysteriously gone, leaving only their robes neatly arranged on the ground. Their footprints led eastward into the desert, where the tracks simply disappeared without a trace. A haunting end to a silent ritual, leaving behind questions that echo through the dawn. In the fading light, the last children traced shapes in the dust beneath the red sky. They sketched tall, faceless beings holding torches that seemed made of bone. The children called these figures the Watchers, as if they existed just beyond our sight. When asked about them, tears welled in their eyes as they whispered, "They're waiting for us to finish the story." 3 months after the bleeding nights, a sudden tremor shook the ancient city of Namaruk. The Temple of Breath cracked open right down the middle, splitting its sacred chamber in 2. As the dust settled, the inner sanctum stood empty. The great idol of the god Eshamar was nowhere to be found. In place of the idol, there was only a hollow pit filled with fine red sand, silent and mysterious. After the city fell, groups of survivors scattered, each walking their own path into the unknown. Some held onto relics, tangible pieces of a past they couldn't let go of. Others carried only memories, stories passed on through whispered warnings in nearby villages. They said the gods had cursed Namaruk, and that speaking its name would summon ancient nightmares. Even centuries later, those who dared to speak its name reported dreams of a bleeding sky, visions that wouldn't let them rest. A traveler once stumbled upon Enuma, the missing priest living alone in a remote cave by the western hills. His beard was long and white, and his eyes carried a wild, almost haunted look. When asked why the sky bled, he simply said, "Because men began killing in the name of gods who never existed." Suddenly, the traveler fled, never revealing the secret location of that hidden cave. A whole year went by in Namaruk, and yet no babies were born. Though women conceived, every pregnancy sadly ended before the 7th month. The people believed the gods had shut the wombs of their city, sealing their fate. In the temple's last record, Nahir wrote a haunting truth. When heaven bleeds, earth ceases to breathe. When hunger takes hold, it can push people to unimaginable limits. Survivors in the harshest conditions ground sand and mixed it with water, creating a crude dust bread. Though it shredded their throats and caused pain, they ate it anyway, driven by desperate need. Their lips bled as they laughed, accepting their fate with a strange sense of dark humor. They said it was fitting. Now they too shared in the red of the heavens. Before leaving the city behind, Nahir gathered all the sacred texts for one final act. He said, when words began this curse, words will not end it. Then he set the texts on fire. The fire burned with an eerie blue light and gave off no smoke, unlike any ordinary blaze. When the fire died out, the ashes formed strange symbols no one could decipher. But one word remained clear and unmistakable: remember. Those who survived gathered their few belongings and stepped into the vast, endless dunes. For 7 long days they pressed on, the sun beating down as the landscape stretched endlessly around them. Then came the 8th day, when half of them vanished overnight, their footprints fading into nothingness. Left behind, the survivors stopped following the stars and instead began to follow the silence, hoping it would guide them beyond the sky's reach. As they reached the final ridge, the horizon glowed faintly red again, like an ember smoldering under ash. The oldest among them dropped to their knees, whispering with a trembling voice, "It follows us." Silence fell over the group. No one dared to speak after that chilling warning. They kept moving forward until finally their shadows faded and disappeared into the dusk. Imagine a city lost to the desert, swallowed by shifting sands in just a few years. Within 3 years, Namuruk vanished, erased by relentless winds until nothing remained. Only the top of a temple spire peaked above the dunes, visible for a generation before disappearing too. For 4,000 years, no one even whispered the city's name. It was as if it never existed. Yet sometimes, far away in other ruins, the same red dust reappears, like a quiet memory in the sky. Centuries passed, and vast desert dunes slowly shifted across the endless landscape. Where the desert meets the sea, a new empire rose from the sands, reshaping the ancient world. No one remembered Namuruk anymore, but something strange began to appear after long droughts. A mysterious red dust settled in the wells, something the priests called the mark of the old god. They warned everyone never to drink from water touched by this eerie red dust. But some drank it anyway, and they dreamed of a sky on fire, mysterious and unstoppable. 2,000 years after a great civilization fell, a curious scribe named Luthen of Arad stumbled upon something extraordinary. Near the dried-up River Suma, he uncovered fragments of a weathered tablet etched with strange carvings. The inscription spoke of 7 red nights and a mystical city that fed the heavens, sparking wonder and fear alike. Excited, Luthen brought the tablet to his king, hoping for recognition, but the royal court simply laughed at his discovery. Fearing the tablet's words might carry a curse or disease, Luthen buried it again, sealing away its secrets for another time. In the 3rd year of drought, farmers in the new kingdom of Tarsel began noticing a strange warmth in the wind. The wind carried a faint metallic scent, like blood mixed with dust, unsettling both people and animals alike. Shepherds whispered about seeing faint red flickers glowing against the night sky, visions no one could explain. At first, the elders laughed off these tales, dismissing them as tricks of imagination or fatigue. But one morning, the sun itself rose, tinged with the deep red color of wine, an eerie sign none could ignore. An old wanderer appeared at the city gates, his worn clothes heavy with desert sand. In his hands, he held a stone carved with strange ancient symbols nobody could understand. He warned, "You have built over their bones, the sky will remember." But the guards didn't listen. They beat him and threw him out into the unforgiving desert. The next morning, something strange was left behind, his footprints glowing red on the scorched ground before turning to ash. Deep beneath the endless dunes, excavators sent by the Tarsel king discovered ancient ruins hidden from time. They uncovered broken pillars, melted bricks, and a mysterious blackened altar, remnants of a forgotten civilization. The site was quickly named the City of the Sky's Curse, a place wrapped in eerie legends and uneasy silence. At night, the workers' torches flickered and died as if something unseen wanted to keep the city buried forever. Despite their fears, the king commanded the team to press on and unearth the city's deepest secrets. Deep within the ancient ruins, explorers stumbled upon a chamber unlike any other, filled with skeletal remains standing upright. These bones weren't just scattered, they faced east, arms raised toward the ceiling, frozen in a mysterious posture. No one quite understands how they've stayed standing all this time, untouched and eerily preserved amidst the ruins. One man took a skull from the chamber as a curiosity, but soon after his family vanished, and the skull turned to red sand. In the heart of ancient ruins, explorers uncovered a single unbroken tablet etched with trembling lines. This tablet bore the name Enuma, the high priest of a forgotten city, hinting at stories long buried in time. The inscription was haunting, ending abruptly with words that stirred curiosity and unease. It read, "I have seen mercy bleed and truth burn. The sky is not a god. It is a mirror." The final word was smeared as if written in haste or perhaps fear, leaving us with more mysteries than answers. That year, the lunar eclipse painted the night sky a deep crimson red. In the town of Tarsel, people gathered to celebrate, believing it to be a sign of a bountiful harvest. But just 3 nights after, something strange happened. The sea pulled back far beyond its usual shores. Miles of dead fish washed ashore, filling the air with a heavy, unsettling smell that lingered for weeks. The priests warned that a forbidden name had been spoken once more, and that it had reached the heavens. In a quiet, ancient hall, scholars carefully pieced together mysterious symbols from ancient tablets. Suddenly, the lost name of Namuruk was spoken aloud in the king's grand court, breaking centuries of silence. The torches flickered and dimmed as a cold draft swept through despite closed doors, filling the air with tension. The king's scribe collapsed, murmuring strange words in an unknown tongue, struck by an unseen force. That night, for the first time in millennia, a mysterious red shimmer returned to the horizon, signaling something ancient had awakened. For 7 nights in a row, a deep rolling thunder echoed without a single drop of rain. The sound was steady and rhythmic, like drums beating from deep beneath the earth. Some folks said it was the desert itself, waking up and remembering its ancient past. Others believed the thunder was the march of gods, moving silently through the night. And in the quiet homes nearby, children woke up startled, whispering that they heard the earth call their names. King Talos of Tarsel grew obsessed with the ancient ruins, pushing for deeper excavations despite the dangers. He spent restless nights inside the shadowy chambers, convinced he heard voices calling him Ashur Khan reborn. The priests warned him about following the curse that doomed the lost city long ago. But Talos answered with steely resolve, "Then I shall finish what they began." It started to rain again, but this time the drops were faint, rusty, almost metallic in color. The red rain stained the pristine white marble of the ancient temples, turning them into a scene from a forgotten prophecy. People hurried to cover their wells, trying to protect their precious water, but it was already too late. The water turned bitter and poisoned, stirring uneasy feelings among those who dared to drink it. They spoke of strange dreams, visions filled with fire and shadows that danced beyond the flames. Above the city, the sky pulsed faintly, as if it remembered something long buried. Lightning crashed down onto the vast desert dunes where Namuruk once stood. A strange fire ignited, burning the sand itself without any fuel or smoke. The mysterious flames burned fiercely, lasting an intense 7 days straight. From the ancient palace balcony, the king watched the burning sands in silent awe. Next to him, the high priest wept quietly, whispering, "The blood of the sky has found its heart again." Imagine a trade caravan making its way across the vast southern desert, a lifeline of goods and stories. Suddenly, the caravan vanished without a trace, leaving no clues behind. When searchers followed their trail, they found something eerie. Camels standing still, their bridles hanging loose as if abandoned. Their eyes were open but lifeless, a haunting reminder of what once was. And strange as it sounds, their shadows were burned into the sand, perfectly preserved, telling a silent story. This mysterious disappearance remains a desert legend, a puzzle waiting to be solved. Deep beneath these ancient ruins, excavators began to hear strange voices, like echoes from another time. The voices chanted in languages so old no one could recognize them, except for one haunting phrase repeated again and again: "Remember mercy." Interestingly, whenever light was brought into the dark chambers, the chanting stopped, as if the voices faded away with the brightness. But as soon as darkness returned, the whispers resumed, echoing like a timeless secret buried beneath the stone. What message does this whisper hold? Maybe a reminder that mercy, even across centuries, should never be forgotten. In the dead of night, a sudden flash flood swept through the streets of Tarsel, turning everything in its path into chaos. Under the glow of the moon, the water shimmered with an unsettling crimson hue, like a river of blood flowing silently. By dawn, the city lay blanketed in thick silt, stained with the eerie color of dried blood, coating every surface and corner. When the priests examined the strange residue, they made a chilling discovery. There was no iron, only finely powdered bone mixed in the flood's debris. This mysterious crimson flood left the city shrouded in questions, a haunting reminder of nature's strange, silent fury. The Council of Tarsel pleaded with their king to leave the ancient ruins behind. But the king stood firm, determined like never before. He said, "If the heavens bled for 7 nights, then I will bleed for eternity to understand why." That very night, he ventured alone into the shadowy temple ruins, and from that moment he was never seen again. At the break of dawn, palace guards made a chilling discovery. The king's robes folded carefully on an empty throne. A faint red stain marked the throne's seat, hinting at something unsettling that had transpired. The city's most prized jewel, the ruby known as the Heart of the Sun, had inexplicably darkened to black. No one dared approach or touch this cursed relic, its mysterious transformation sparking fear throughout the palace. The high priest solemnly declared the throne cursed and ordered the sealing of the entire palace. At dawn, a fierce sandstorm began to sweep across the desert town of Tarsel. The storm raged endlessly for 3 days, burying everything in its path. When the skies finally cleared, the excavation site had completely disappeared under layers of shifting dunes. Not a single marker or stone remained to tell the story. The desert had claimed its secret once again. Long ago, the survivors of Tarsel fled north, carrying fragile fragments of a secret ancient text. As time passed, their story faded from history into legend, then myth, whispered around campfires. They believed the gods punished anyone who tried to uncover the true meaning of mercy documented in those writings. Beneath shifting sands, the lost city still sleeps, hidden from the world's eyes for centuries. And every 1,000 years, when the wind settles and the night turns red, you can hear the haunting whisper. Remember Namaruk? 3,000 years after the last storm, the desert stretched endlessly, silent and untouched. No cities remained, no ancient bones, just dunes flowing like a sea frozen in time. Then came the explorers, carrying iron tools and flags, journeying from distant lands to uncover lost civilizations. Among them was Arden Vel, a curious scholar who believed myth held hidden truths. In his log, Arden wrote, "If the gods cursed this land, it was because men once dared to look too high." Arden and his team started digging where the desert dunes curved lowest, hopeful and eager. After days of hard work, they finally hit something solid. Old weathered stone beneath the sand. At first just broken pieces and faded carvings, but then the tip of a mysterious pillar emerged. On its surface were faint symbols, spirals encircling what looked like a bleeding sun. The workers hushed, uneasy about the old desert tales tied to these marks, refusing to go near. But Arden just laughed and said, "The sky doesn't bleed. The earth does." Deep underground, explorers stumbled upon statues unlike anything they'd seen before. Human-shaped but eerily eyeless, their mouths frozen wide open as if caught mid-scream. The stone around their faces looked melted smooth, almost as if they had been scorched by an intense fire long ago. As they ventured deeper, an unnatural heat filled the chamber, thickening the air and raising the tension among the team. One of the workers even fainted, claiming he heard strange chanting echoing from the stone itself, a voice no one else could hear. Though they covered the statues with canvas to seal them away, the haunting sounds never truly stopped, lingering like a chilling secret beneath the surface. It started with a chilling discovery. One worker found his hands stained red, even though he hadn't touched any paint or pigment. No matter how hard he tried, the color just wouldn't wash away, leaving a haunting mark that refused to fade. By morning, he had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only silence and a strange feeling in the air. Inside his tent, untouched and still, was one mysterious clue. A single word carved into the sand on the floor. Remember. What does it mean, and why was he taken? The answers seemed buried just beneath the sand. Arden's assistant, Helene, captured the ruins using an old brass lens, hoping to uncover hidden stories. But every photo came out strange. Red streaks cutting across the sky, as if the light itself was playing tricks. Even at noon, the horizon glowed like a sunset, painting the scene with surreal colors. Helene whispered softly, "The light remembers what we cannot see," hinting at secrets hidden beyond our vision. On the 23rd day, the team discovered a deep stairway leading down into darkness. At the bottom, a massive sealed stone door stood covered in ancient inscriptions. Arden carefully translated the warning etched on the door. "He who opens remembers, he who remembers is judged." Despite the ominous message, Arden gave the order to open the door. As the last wedge was pulled free, a rush of hot air escaped, bringing with it a strange scent, like burnt copper. Inside, the hall was lined with shattered idols, their broken forms telling stories of forgotten times. At the center stood a black basalt altar, dark and solemn, holding a mysterious bowl. Within the bowl was hardened residue, deep red, glassy, and eerily ancient. Arden whispered softly, realizing its blood turned to stone. That night, a faint red shimmer appeared above the dunes, soft and pulsing like a breath in the dark. Around the camp, lanterns flickered and dimmed as if the glow was taking their place. One of the men carefully recorded the strange event in his journal, trying to make sense of what he saw. He wrote, "It was not fire. It was memory pretending to be light, capturing the mystery in words." Before dawn, the red glow vanished, leaving only silence and a sense of something unforgettable. The next morning, a deep, steady hum vibrated through the ground, too constant to be thunder. When they struck the ancient altar with their tools, the sound echoed long after the impact. Arden pressed his ear against the cold stone, his face suddenly turning pale. He whispered, "It's hollow, and something's still moving inside." Helene set up an old phonograph to capture her notes, leaving it running through the night. But when they played it back the next morning, the sounds weren't voices at all. Instead, the recording revealed 7 slow, rhythmic thuds followed by an eerie silence. Arden counted the beats aloud, his voice trembling. 7 nights. Then just as suddenly, the fragile recording cracked and split in two. Have you ever seen a sunset so strange it felt almost unreal? Travelers from nearby villages started noticing a strange glow flickering in the desert sky. Some described it as the sun setting behind a shimmering curtain of blood-red light, casting eerie shadows across the sand. Others claimed they saw towering shapes moving just beyond the horizon, like giant silhouettes walking through the glowing haze. The desert elders spoke in hushed tones, warning the villagers, "The city beneath your feet remembers. What secrets lie beneath the sands? And what does the red mirage truly mean?" Sometimes the desert tells tales far older than we can imagine. As the excavation continues, Arden's team discovers a hidden secondary staircase leading deeper underground. The walls here are adorned with ancient reliefs, showing human figures kneeling beneath a bleeding sun. At the passage's end, 7 niches come into view, each once holding a body but now mostly empty. Only one niche still holds remains, bones carefully wrapped in gold-threaded cloth. Around the neck rests a pendant engraved with the mysterious name, Enuma. When Helene touched the ancient pendant, everything changed. She suddenly fainted, as if the past reached through time itself. As she woke, her eyes were filled with vivid flashes. A stone city beneath a haunting red sky, alive with strange rituals. She saw people burning their own altars, a desperate act filled with sorrow and hope, unfolding right before her mind's eye. And then, a king, walking slowly into the flames, as if begging the heavens to remember him forever. Arden wrote down her words and wondered aloud, was this a dream or was the past itself trying to speak through Helene? That evening, out of nowhere, the desert sky turned a deep, ominous red as a fierce sandstorm rolled in. Thunder rumbled beneath the towering dunes, turning the peaceful desert into a roaring storm. Tents were ripped from their stakes, and workers fled into the chaos, disappearing into the storm's fury. Meanwhile, Arden and Helene hurried to shelter, locking themselves inside a small chamber for safety. Outside, the wind wasn't just wind. It carried a strange whispering that sent chills down their spines. For 7 nights, the storm raged outside, fierce winds and thunder echoing in the darkness. Inside a sealed chamber, 2 survivors held their breath, listening to a deep hum growing beneath an ancient altar. A bowl filled with petrified blood began to crack, the tension rising with each faint sound. On the 7th night, a powerful glow burst forth, pulsing through the cracks like it was alive. The storm outside might have waned, but inside something mysterious was awakening stronger than ever. The altar suddenly split open with a thunderous crack, revealing something unexpected inside. Instead of treasure, a smooth, hollow void radiated heat, glowing softly in the darkness. Helene dropped to her knees, her voice trembling as she whispered, "It's not a tomb. It's a wound." Suddenly, a gust of wind burst forth from the pit, carrying countless voices whispering one word, "Mercy." When the rescue teams finally arrived after weeks of searching, the camp was eerily silent and completely deserted. All around, tools lay rusted and forgotten, telling stories of hasty departure and long neglect. Footprints crisscrossed the dusty ground, but they ended abruptly as if the people had vanished into thin air. The strangest discovery was a brass phonograph, still spinning quietly, playing only the haunting sounds of wind and distant drums. Years passed before a traveler stumbled upon an old leather journal, half buried in the shifting sands. Inside, the final entry stood out, written in faded ink yet powerful in its words. "The sky bleeds not because the gods are angry," the journal read. "It bleeds because man keeps digging where he was told to kneel." The following page was stained and soaked through, marked by what seemed to be old blood, telling a haunting story beyond words. Back in 1892, an archivist stumbled upon something truly strange while restoring old expedition photos. Among the collection was a photo labeled Site 41, the temple below, showing a dark stairway leading deep underground. But what caught the archivist's eye was a faint, almost ghostly shadow of a man, upside down on the wall behind the stairs. No other photo from the expedition showed that shadow, making this image a puzzling enigma from the past. This unusual find has sparked curiosity and speculation about what secrets lay hidden in that temple. Over a century ago, these film reels disappeared, lost to time and dust. Recently, they were discovered tucked away in a private collection, delicate and half-burnt. Once restored, they revealed eerie flickers, scenes of endless dunes under a strange red sky. Fragments showed a shattered altar, broken and forgotten, speaking of ancient secrets lost. And in one fleeting frame, the horizon glowed ominously, like the sky itself was bleeding again. These fleeting images bring the forgotten past back to life, inviting us to uncover what lies beyond. Back in 1924, Dr. Eleanor Maris, a British meteorologist, heard reports of strange red flashes lighting up the Arabian desert skies. Locals believed these eerie flashes were a sign that the old curse had returned, sparking fear and curiosity in equal measure. But Dr. Maris wasn't convinced. She thought they were just reflections of sand, a common atmospheric trick of light. Then during a flight over the desert, she saw it for herself. A wet, shimmering red unlike any sunset. A strange, almost blood-like glow. Eleanor dove deep into her research, searching for clues about past anomalies. Hidden away in Oxford's archives, she discovered a thin, weathered file labeled Expedition 1889, Site 41. Inside, she found a handful of faded photographs and fragments from Arden Vell's old journal. Most of the journal was nearly unreadable, but one line stood out crystal clear. It will come again when man measures the sky instead of fearing it. Among a stack of old papers, Eleanor finds a map with burnt edges and faded ink, hinting at hidden stories. Using ultraviolet light, she reveals secret red markings circling a vast desert region that were invisible before. At the center, barely visible in delicate handwriting, are the words, "The mouth of the sky." Eleanor had a bold idea that ancient volcanic eruptions caused the legendary red rains, scattering iron-rich dust across the sky. But her colleagues dismissed her theory, claiming that volcanoes simply don't bleed red. Late that night, something unexpected caught Eleanor's eye. Red stains appeared on her notebook, small, damp, and circular. Eleanor received a rare photograph sent all the way from the British Museum. This picture was from an 1889 expedition capturing a moment frozen in time. But when the image was magnified, something strange appeared near the altar. The figure was shaped like a man, but no one recognized him from the crew. Curiously, he was facing the camera, even though no one recalled anyone there at the time. In a quiet London archive, a long-forgotten film reel was finally brought back to life for its first public screening. As the film played, something strange happened. The projector suddenly froze in the middle of the show. Curiously, the audience claimed they heard a faint humming from the speakers, even though the reel had gone completely silent. Technicians checked everything and found no signs of malfunction or technical issues with the equipment. But what really baffled everyone was the old phonograph nearby. It started spinning on its own, playing a haunting sound no one could explain. Weeks after the event, meteorologists started noticing unusual patterns in the sky's spectral data. These readings revealed a faint, deep red light, completely invisible to the human eye. Special cameras managed to capture this eerie atmospheric glow, hinting at something extraordinary above us. Researchers named this phenomenon atmospheric luminescence, a mysterious glow in the air. But in villages across Arabia, people have a different story. They call it the sky remembering. At an antique auction, a forgotten crate labeled Vell Expedition Artifacts suddenly caught everyone's attention. Inside the crate were fragments of ancient pottery, a melted compass, and a small vial sealed with aged wax. The wax bore a spiral sun symbol, the very same one carved deep into a mysterious ancient pillar. But the auctioneer warned, the last man who touched it went blind, and refused to open the crate any further. What secrets lie inside this untouched crate? Some mysteries are better left unopened, or are they? Eleanor was captivated by the deep red glow in the sky, drawn to its mysterious rhythm. As she analyzed the readings, she noticed a pattern. 7 slow pulses repeating every hour. It wasn't just a color, it was a message, a steady signal pulsing in the sky. Whispering to herself, Eleanor realized, the sky is beating like a heart. During a fierce storm in Cairo, a wireless operator caught something strange on the radio. Bursts of static unlike anything usual. Amidst the static, a faint voice whispered in a language no one could immediately recognize. Experts later compared the sounds and found eerie connections to ancient Sumerian hymns lamenting the loss of the sun. This uncanny link between a stormy radio signal and ancient morning chants remains a captivating mystery to this day. Eleanor journeyed deep into the Arabian desert, seeking remnants of a forgotten past. She discovered the remains of an old encampment, weathered by time and wind. Nearby, a small Bedouin village still thrived, holding on to stories passed down through generations. The village elders spoke of the Red Storm, a fierce force that swallowed men whole without warning. One old woman pointed toward the glowing horizon and warned, when it glows again, the buried will walk. Using the latest technology, Eleanor's team uncovered a hidden staircase long forgotten beneath the earth. The old door was barely holding together, its intricate carvings almost worn away by time. Inside, a cracked black altar stood silent, hollow, and mysterious in the dim light. The air inside was warm, almost like it was breathing, and Eleanor's assistant whispered, "It's still alive." When they placed seismic instruments near the altar, they picked up deep, rhythmic vibrations. 7 beats every minute. Surprisingly, these rhythms weren't coming from the Earth's crust like usual. The source was beneath the stone itself, stirring curiosity among the researchers. Eleanor noted, "Something's still moving down there. It's not tectonic, it's biological." On the third night at camp, something strange happened. Red droplets began to fall from a clear, starry sky. This unusual rain left reddish stains on the tents and tools, giving off a faint metallic scent. Scientists examined samples of this red drizzle, but tests showed no known minerals or pollutants. Eleanor poetically called it rain that remembers what water once carried, hinting at secrets from the past. That night, she fell into a deep dream of a vast city engulfed in flames under a glowing red dome. In the midst of the chaos, a mysterious man dressed in ancient robes turned to her, his eyes empty and haunting. He said to her, "You came back. We never stopped waiting." When she awoke, the world was still, but her journal lay open before her. Strange, damp fingerprints marking a blank page. 1 week after the excavation, satellites caught something none of us expected. A sudden rift tearing across the sky. This wasn't just any light. A vast red glow spreading for hundreds of kilometers like a crack in the very atmosphere. For exactly 7 minutes, instruments went dark, unable to register anything as the sky itself seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Even the birds vanished without a trace, as if the natural world was holding its breath. And this was no accident. The sky bled again, marking a mysterious event unseen in thousands of years. Suddenly, the seismic hum grew louder, becoming clear enough for us to hear. It wasn't just random noise. It had a harmonic quality, like an ancient chant awakening. Eleanor noticed it matched the old phonograph beats recorded back in 1889. The melody was the same 7-note rhythm, a song that had traveled through 4,000 years of time. We discovered DNA from ancient bones with unusual markers that don't belong to any known human lineage. Curious about these findings, Eleanor decided to trace her own ancestry. To her surprise, her DNA matched one of those mysterious markers exactly. She realized something profound. The past isn't just buried in stone, it's buried in us. As dawn breaks, a red light spreads across the horizon, painting the sky in eerie hues. The air vibrates with a deep hum, the ground seemingly trembling beneath your feet. An ancient altar begins to glow from within, its light pulsing as if coming back to life. Eleanor stands silently before the altar, softly whispering, "It bleeds because man keeps digging." Suddenly, the light envelops her completely, swallowing everything in a radiant embrace. Days after the rescue team arrived, the site was eerily empty, as if no one had ever been there. All that remained was Eleanor's journal, its pages mostly blank except for a single trembling line written in fading ink. The last line read, "On the 7th night is not the end, it is the remembering." And above the vast desert, for 7 silent nights, the sky shimmered with a mysterious red glow once again. Across the world, scientists woke up to an impossible sight, the entire sky glowing with a strange crimson shimmer. In deserts and remote places, the silence was unnerving. No wind, no movement, just a void cutting through the living world. Electronic instruments failed, recordings corroded from within as if the silence itself was alive and rejecting sound. In archives far away, melted recordings emitted faint pulses, shapes forming silent faces screaming in red light. Fishermen along the Mediterranean coast heard whispers hidden in the tides, while ocean monitors detected strange vibrations beneath the waves. Strange births marked by crimson spirals perplexed doctors, but mothers shared haunting dreams of bleeding skies before their children were born. Secret councils gathered, revealing the source wasn't weather. This was something temporal, a countdown etched across observatories worldwide. Drones uncovered mysterious monoliths in desert ruins, their shifting carvings warning, "Do not wake what remembers you." Sleep became fragile. Millions shared dreams of a burning journal and a man cloaked in desert robes. A ghost from the past. Seas turned a shimmering red. Not blood, but crystalline dust carrying secrets, while ancient monuments thrummed with the same hidden pulse. Inside hidden chambers, candles burned with black flames, revealing skies bleeding red and shadows that simply vanished. Public broadcasts fell silent, replaced by false blue skies, but dedicated watchers caught the faint pulse of red each midnight. Microphones pressed to the monolith caught chilling words. "You opened the 7th door," before the metal corroded to dust. On the 7th day of the 2nd month, the earth itself glowed red, uniting the world in a single silent heartbeat. Mirrors and rivers reflected only red. Hearts beat as one, and through shared dreams a single word echoed, Velenuma, the beginning. After the red light faded from the skies, the world didn't just go back to normal. Time itself twisted and the seasons shifted unpredictably. For a whole week, silence fell over the earth, but on the 8th night, a strange hum returned. This time, buzzing within people themselves. Those who had been near the desert began to change. Their eyes glowed red in the dark, and their voices seemed to carry ancient echoes. Archaeologists found that the mysterious carvings weren't warnings, but ancient maps pointing to lost civilizations hidden across the globe. Governments fell into chaos as the truth emerged. Humanity's ancestors once shared the world with something powerful, buried and forgotten beneath the desert sands. 7 glowing points appeared worldwide, connected by a spiral pattern visible even from satellites, signaling something ancient awakening. Then darkness blanketed the planet for 3 days. No sun, no stars. Only a faint red pulse rising from the soil itself. At dawn on the final night, the sands parted and the monolith re-emerged, its surface shimmering with ancient faces watching silently. A voice echoed through every mind, asking a simple question. Do you remember now? As time folded inward and everything froze, when light returned, the blood-red sky was gone, replaced by clouds shaped like old symbols that slowly dissolved in the wind. Scientists called it the Great Aurora Anomaly. But ancient scrolls spoke of a sky that wept for 7 nights to call its maker home. No hum was ever heard again, but those who remember say every so often a faint rhythm echoes, carrying whispers of a time when the sky bled memory, not death.